Zack's Hamburgers, which was the name of my dad's restaurant, is where I almost learned everything there is about working with people. And one particular story comes to mind that really impacted me about kindness. And one of our employees who's been with us for about 2 years, she's an older woman. She was caught stealing hamburgers one night, and I was right there. My dad caught her, and she was putting hamburger meat into her purse. And I saw how my dad handled that, and even to this day, my hairs are up on my arm. He turns to her and he goes, "I'm sorry." And I'm thinking he was going to, call the police or fire her or kick her out the door. And he goes, "I'm sorry. I really am, that I have not been approachable or nice enough that you can come to me and ask me if you need something. I promise if you stay with me, I will do better at that."
Welcome to the Kindness Factor podcast, sharing life-changing personal stories of the transformational impact of deep kindness. Hosted by
Dr. Elia, the happiness doctor,
and Randy McNeely, the kindness giver. Thank you for joining us. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you may be. Welcome to another episode of the Kindness Factor podcast. I'm Randy McNeely, the kindness giver, joined by my wonderful co-host, Dr. Elia Gourgouris, the happiness doctor. And boy, today I am just surrounded by happy Greeks. We are thrilled to enjoy the opportunity to interview an amazing man named Zack Demopoulos. Now, Zack is coming to us from New Jersey, and I want to share a little bit about Zack. First of all, Zack is the premier caregiver. The man knows what he's talking about when it comes to giving care to people, when it comes to inspiring people and teaching people how to take care of their loved ones, and also inspiring and work with employers to help their employees who are caregivers, who are struggling a lot of time with trying to work and be a caregiver at the same time. Zack has over 36 years of experience working in corporate and small business worlds, mostly in HR. He also founded and operated his own home care agency for over 13 years. He helped over 500 families care for their loved ones and hired over 700 professional caregivers to provide that care. Zack is currently a long-distance caregiver for his mother, who lives in North Carolina, and he frequently travels back and forth from New Jersey to North Carolina, where he lives with his beautiful wife, Phyllis, and two rescue dogs. We're going to have to hear about those rescue dogs. They enjoy having their 3 adult children with their spouses and 2 grandchildren living near them, and they enjoy getting together and having a great time. Zack, I know that there's a lot more we could say and share, but let's turn the time over to, oh, wait a minute. I got to pause, because I think the happy Greek, Dr. Gourgouris, had something he wanted to share about Zack.
I'm just saying, Opa, as we say in Greek. Let me just say, welcome to the Greek George Clooney or the Italian stallion, Zack Demopoulos. Let's go, baby.
You're never supposed to embarrass the guest right off the bat, man. Come on. Especially for a guy who looks like he's about to jump on a cruise ship in the Greek Isles and cruise the waters.
I'm ready to go. I just wore this first time ever in my whole life. Brand new shirt just for you, Zack. It was like conscious decision to bring a little bit of the Greek Aegean closer to you, my friend. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here, and I love the shirt, by the way. I really do. And Randy, thank you for that nice introduction. Anybody can say Demopoulos, I'm impressed, because it rhymes with Acropolis. And as far as my rescue dogs, you will probably hear from them, because they're probably going to bark. So I apologize for that in advance. But one's named Stella, one's named Athena.
Wow, those are beautiful names. Very beautiful.
Those are awesome. Well, Zack, I had to practice your name for a while, not now, but when we first met, I kept wanting to, because we got also our other friend, Konopostolopoulos, and Apostolopoulos, Demopoulos. Gourgouris is a lot easier to pronounce.
Right.
But you know what? All that adds up to one word for me: happy. Happy people. I have not made a Greek friend yet that has not been a smiling, happy person. So, I love hanging out with my Greek friends. Zack, the purpose behind this show you well know, we are here to give our audience, share with our audience, inspiring, and transformative experiences with kindness. And coming from the world that you do, you've had a multitude of them. And we would love to hear, about who your kindness heroes are. And what I mean by that, people who have had an impact on your life, who still have an impact on your life, even many years or maybe decades after the experience that you've had. What would you like to share with our audience?
So there's so many.
There's so many. I know that's the toughest question. There's so many, but
there are so many. There really is. But I guess the best way to answer your question, the most honest way to answer your question is probably the very first person to influence my life in terms of kindness. And that's when I was about 13 years old. I started working with my father in a restaurant. Surprise, a Greek owning a restaurant.
What?
And
Wow.
my father's a Greek immigrant who came over here, and I just respect the heck out of him. He's like my mentor and hero because no education, and he started a restaurant. And I worked with him from 13 years old to about 21. And everybody used to always ask me, "Where'd you go to school?" And I go, "Real school or institutional school?" I go, "Zack's Hamburgers," which was the name of my dad's restaurant, is where I almost learned everything there is about working with people. And one particular story comes to mind that really impacted me about kindness. And one of our employees who's been with us for about 2 years, she's an older woman. She was caught stealing hamburgers one night, and I was right there. My dad caught her, and she was putting hamburger meat into her purse. And I saw how my dad handled that. And even to this day, my hairs are up on my arm. He turns to her and he goes, "I'm sorry." And I'm thinking he was going to, call the police or fire her or kick her out the door. And he goes, "I'm sorry. I really am, that I have not been approachable or nice enough that you can come to me and ask me if you need something. I promise if you stay with me, I will do better at that." And I'm like,
wow, what an answer.
that experience has stayed with me to this day, and I've applied it to family, friends. I did 13 years in HR, and I can assure you both, gentlemen, every time I had a case in front of me, I always assumed the best. Always. I don't care how much the evidence was there about, wanting to fire someone. I always said, let's give the benefit of the doubt. Let's hear the other story. My wife's famous. She goes, there's two sides of the story, and then there's what really happened. And so we apply that to almost everything. My dad was an amazing man. He passed away in 2011, and many of the life lessons I learned from him, but that one is probably the most impactful. And I hadn't thought about that until you asked me. It's interesting that has, and I was probably 14 years old when that happened.
It reminds me of Les Mis in some ways.
Can't believe you said that.
Getting caught stealing, right? And then the owner saying, no, I gave it to him and transformed his life. Your dad did the same thing with this lady, because it would have been very easy to like, what the heck are you doing stealing from me after I gave you a job and now you steal from me? But rather he turned that around and said, man, if I was more approachable, perhaps you would have told me that you needed food for your kids or something at home, that you needed the meat, right? And
she stayed for 15 years and was one of his most loyal employees. And she had about, I think, 6 children at home. And it was just a tough month. And she was just trying to feed them. And she and my dad had an incredible relationship after that. It's amazing. It's a great lesson. I'd like to say I'm making that up, but it's the God honest truth.
Well, no, think about what you just shared with us. There were 2 lives that were transformed, actually 3, really. Your father's life got better. The employee, the lady's life was changed because he extended mercy toward her. He extended kindness and mercy and love. And, she recognized in that moment that she had someone who was an advocate for her. I mean, think about it. Your father stepped into the role of a true kindness hero in that moment, stepped into the shoes of a kindness hero, became her advocate, really, set up her path for the next 15 years. And think about what happened to her heart. Her heart in that moment was engraved with the initials of your father.
That's beautifully said, Randy.
And
beautifully said.
Impacted me. Can I share a quick
Well, so
story?
I was going to say that was the second person. There were three people impacted.
Yeah.
You were the third.
Can
Think
I
about what you just told us. It's how many decades ago was this? Like 4 or 5 decades ago, right?
I was 14 years old, so that was 1976.
Oh my gosh. See, so I mean, think about
48 years.
But let
48
me
years. And
I
then,
just thought of this story. If you don't mind, can I share
Please,
oh,
yes.
please share another
how
one.
much this impacted me? You ready for this? I just thought of it. In the early 1990s, I was a sales manager for a pharmaceutical company, and I had about 15 sales representatives under me. And we suspected that something was going on with this older gentleman that worked for me, poor performer. And somehow I got somebody sneaked some information to me that he was throwing away controlled substances, which is a really big no-no. And so when I met up with him at his storage units by surprise, I discovered that he was doing that. Do you know I did the same thing to him that my dad did to that employee? I turned to him, I said, I'm sorry. Well, I don't what have I hope, what have I done to you that I did not allow you to be able to come to me and speak to me and tell me about any issues and challenges? And that man was just like bewildered. And he told me a story. I won't go into it now, but about his daughter and all this stuff. And I got to tell you, I ended up helping this man tremendously just because he opened up, and we got him, back on his feet and became a good performer. So it's amazing. I did the same exact thing that I saw my dad do to his employee.
It's the gift that keeps on giving, which is both of these beautiful stories. Going back to your dad one more time, Randy, you mentioned that there were three people that were transformed. Oh, your dad, this lady, and obviously Zach at the age of 14 of witnessing that. But I'm wondering if that doesn't extend beyond even the 6 kids of this lady, because
Oh my
whether
gosh, yes.
she told them the truth or not, that she was, taking food, stealing food, let's say, to her kids or not, certainly she would have said at some point, because of this man, I have been able to provide for you guys for 15 years and really raise my family. So the blessings extend to all 6 of her kids, at least.
She was at my dad's funeral, which was about 12 years after he retired. She was there with 2 of her kids, adult kids. And I got to tell you, my dad was a very humble man, but there were over 500 people at that funeral coming and going. And many of them were first, second, third generation employees and customers. It's just the way my dad was. He was just the kindest soul ever. I can't find a relative to say anything bad about him. And Dr. E will tell you that's hard in the Greek culture.
Well, think about what we've just discussed here. I mean, generational impact, and I can guarantee you that she told her kids about your dad, and that your dad is on a pedestal in their minds. He's a kindness superhero. If because he was willing to do what he did, their lives were totally changed. They didn't go hungry. They didn't have to, their mom didn't have to go to jail or, get prosecuted and all these things that could have led to, who knows what. And what a difference maker. That's the beautiful thing about experiences like that. Thanks for sharing that with us, Zach. So
I have
asking.
one more thing I want to say about your father, Zach, because this story has really just penetrated my heart. I think in life in general, if you have been wronged, clearly, after that, to extend grace to another human being is a rare thing nowadays. People don't extend grace even if they haven't been wronged, let alone, somebody stealing from you, and then you choosing to extend that kind of grace and change the path that this lady's life took and how it impacted 6 kids, who in turn at some point will impact more and more. Like the ripple effect of your dad's grace and kindness, just like you did with that other gentleman, in the 90s, and how you changed his life. And then you go into the business of caring for people and caretakers and so on. And this becomes now your legacy. You have your own company and you extend that. Your dad's legacy has lived through you, and I'm sure it gets passed on to the next generation, to his grandkids, meaning your own kids too, on the lineage. I mean,
Yeah, without a doubt. And I gotta tell you, I hope you're wrong, Dr. E, because I hope that people today do give people the benefit of the doubt, do overlook a mistake, and they just don't talk about it, and you just don't hear about it. And I'll tell you, in the late '90s, when I was in HR and early 2000s, I would have managers just come right into my office and go, "I want to fire so and so," and I would say, "Okay, sit down. First of all, calm down," because they're getting heat from their manager, right? And they're saying they're poor performer, this and that. I go, "Great, okay, but show me where you've given them the feedback. Show me where you've helped them and lead them, instead of what you're showing me right now is you just want to get rid of a problem. You don't know anything about this representative, probably what they're going through personally. Maybe they have an aging adult at home and it's taking a lot of physical, emotional, mental, financial stress on them. So I would coach a lot of managers, and I hope some of your listeners today who are leading people really take heed to this, that look, give people a chance, because that's what you would want. If you weren't performing for some reason, you wouldn't want a leader to come in and say, "You're out of here," right? So you want people to give you the benefit of doubt. You really do.
Hello, my friends. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen today. We sincerely appreciate you. My friends, I firmly believe that every one of us has an inner kindness hero that is just waiting to be released every day. I'd like to give you a pathway for releasing yours. How? By helping us to flood the earth with as much kindness as possible, to create a global kindemic that spreads love, hope, and happiness. Like and subscribe to each of our social media channels listed in the description, and take out a subscription through Buzzsprout for as little as $10 per month. You can help us to continue to spread the kindemic by bringing you great content here and taking our transformative kindness message to a much broader global audience through the Kindness Factor Human Interest series. Release your inner kindness hero today. Thank you for your support. The thing that's beautiful about that is you're not advocating just one and done. You're not advocating, okay, you've had your chance, see ya. What you're advocating is, let's find out what's going on. Let's find out if how we can manage things and transform things so that you can succeed, because we want you to succeed. You're giving them the ability, you're saying to them, by giving them the opportunity to share what's going on, you're saying, we want to work with you, we want you to succeed. And I can't help it, Elia, we just released today, as we're recording this, the podcast we recorded last week with a beautiful lady named Robin Berlinski. She's the lady who brings out the woohoo in people. I can't help but thinking about how she talked about how perception is reality.
What?
Her grandfather passed away while she was sitting on his lap.
Oh gosh.
And
but listen to this.
It would have been so easy for her family and other people, her family, to let other people drive how she felt. Say, "Oh my gosh, is she okay?
So tragic.
Are you? So tragic,
dramatic." Yeah.
But instead, her family chose to say, "But he was given the greatest gift. He had the apple of his eye with him when he passed away. What a gift you gave him by being the apple of his eye and being there for him."
That's
and
awesome.
She talked about how that experience, the perception that they gave her, impacted her entire life. And this is the same thing with what you're just talking about. How we look at people, how we perceive people, how we see people, when we see them as people rather than objects, when we see them as human beings who deserve to be valued and appreciated, when we take the time to calm down managers that are angry and upset and want to just fire somebody, that's when we have the chance to have that kind of impact. When we have that perception of them, we can help them to see, hey, I can be different, I can think different, I can do different and become better. I love it.
Yeah. One of my best friends who passed away this Valentine's Day, this recent Valentine's Day, he always said, love, and don't judge. Those go hand in hand. And when I think back to what we're talking about now and the things that I did, like I used to train a lot of managers to interview. And as soon as somebody would walk through the door, that first perception, of course, is important. But what's it based on? It's based on some of your own bias, correct? So what my good buddy Lee and Elia knows this. The Greeks always have a saying when somebody dies to keep their memory eternal. And the way I do it is by always sharing everything I learned from my best friend Lee Silverstein, who died of cancer. But he, I used to tell managers, open your heart. All right. Picture yourself walking through that door, and what do you want your managers to think? Do you want them to think, bad of you, or they want to think positive? And I remember one time this kid walks in, we were interviewing for pharmaceutical sales jobs, and this kid walks in with a McDonald's polo, right? And I could tell the manager that I was training the tone completely changed. He didn't ask half the questions and dismissed them. And the kid left. And I turned to the manager. I go, what just happened? He goes, oh, I'm not going to hire that kid. If he doesn't have the time and the decency to put on a suit and interview with me, I don't want to see him. I said, okay. And I come from the restaurant business, right? I said, how about the decency and effort he made to leave his job, be here because he wants to interview with you, and then turn around and has to go back to work? That's the kind of person I want to hire, And it's
Wow,
like,
that's
it's like the manager's like, oh, I never thought of it that way,
that was my first thought too, that he probably left his job to come and interview. That's why he's wearing the McDonald's shirt, and then he had to rush back, and so he did it probably during his lunch break. So cut him a break.
Yeah. I had a lot of respect for that person. And I made that manager bring him back the next day for a redo interview. And we hired him. We hired that kid.
Wow, what a good.
That's that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's
Well, I mean,
awesome.
it's the
Yep.
right thing to do, I mean, like I said, it's tough, but like I said, Lee always said, I'd get angry at some stuff, and Lee would tell me, Zach, you're judging now. Back up a little bit. I mean, we're human. It's human nature,
Yeah.
right? To jump to some negativity or half empty or to be judging folks. But he really, a man who battled cancer for 13 years, he really learned a lot about love and judging. And he would always tell me, people would look at me and I tell them I have lung cancer, and immediately they'd say, how much did you smoke? Or everything. And it's like, that's terrible. It's terrible to assume that everybody has lung cancer, has been smoking, and that's not the case, and so he did it so nicely, though. He did it always in a nice way to raise awareness and educate, and have conversations. Like, that's why I appreciate what you two are doing, and honored to be here, is because these conversations need to be had and listened to, so that maybe we can encourage other people to have these conversations too.
No, that's great. Zach, thanks for that. Thank you so much for all you've shared with us. We're at the point where unfortunately, we could talk all day, and we would love to hear a ton of stories. And we're going to have you come back, because we know you've got a lot more. But we're at the point now where we need to wrap up. We want to ask you, if you had 3 pearls of wisdom, 3 nuggets, golden nuggets that you would like to share with our audience, what would those be?
Life hacks or kindness hacks, perhaps.
Okay, sure. So I did listen to your podcast. I'm a fan, and I remember Elaine something.
Yes,
Elaine Glencoe.
She was amazing, and she shared something that I want to reiterate. She shared that a lot of us are givers, but we hate to receive. And one thing I will share, since I'm a caregiver advocate, to anyone and everyone out there who either is dealing with a chronic illness or an illness, or caring for somebody, it's a tough road. Be open to getting the care. People want to help you. And so be open to that, because it's hard to do it alone. Don't do it alone. And it's easy to actually receive care, which is my second hack, would be that for all of us out there, whenever we hear somebody has cancer, or someone may be a caregiver, we don't know what to say to them. And again, my buddy Lee taught me that. He said that people, instead of not thinking of what to say, they don't say anything at all. In fact, even leave their lives because it's uncomfortable for them. So this hack, I would say, would be, we always say, is there something I could do for you? Right? Or let me know if there's something I could do for you. Or gosh, you have cancer. I'm sorry. Those are, nice, good intentions. But my hack would be, ask open-ended questions and always say things like, what can I do for you today? I have time. Or this week, I have time and capability. Share one thing. Or even if you really want to make it third party, say, if somebody could really do something for you this week, what would that be? So ask those questions, and you'd be amazed that people would open up. Third hack, again, probably in the same caregiver space, I would say, I'm really trying to promote caregivers to become more visible. They tend to be invisible because it's a personal issue. If you're caring for someone right now and you're not sharing that maybe with your leadership, your management, your employer, I encourage you to do it. And here's why. They actually probably want to help you. You're a prize talent and they want to keep you. But they just don't know anything about what you're going through. And it'd be great just to sit down with a manager or even human resources and just share, hey, I am dealing with this right now. And it's taking me away from my work, or I'm at work, but I'm thinking about my parents' appointment and I can't concentrate in the meetings, or I'm coming late, or I have to leave early. Share that with your employer. Give them a chance before criticizing them that they don't have good benefits or can't help you. That's what I'd love for people to do more of. Hope that helps.
No, that's great. I want to add one more thing from a previous guest that told us specifically about when somebody's sick. We do say, well, what can I do to help you, and so on. And of course, when you ask questions like that, these people are already in pain, or they're suffering, or they're vulnerable. So most likely they're not going to say anything. No, I'm going to be fine. I don't need anything. I'm good. This lady, and I think it was Elaine actually, Randy, if I remember this correctly, she said, just do it. Don't ask, do it. Show up with a bags of groceries. Not going to say, here you go. Instead of saying, I'm going to the grocery, can I pick something for you? Most people go, no, I'm fine. I'm okay. Bypass the question and don't make them feel uncomfortable. They're probably not even going to tell you the truth of what their true needs are, but just intuitively, you get the download. Hey, I need to help Randy. I need to help Zach. I need to help Elia or whatever. Just go ahead and do it.
I love that.
Happen when you do that. I love that.
I love that. I got to tell you something. That is something I would definitely throw out as a challenge to all your listeners, that, we all go through routine day to day. We have either a job in an office or a job at home, or we're driving in a commute, or we're doing exercises. My challenge to everybody out there, to your point, Elia, is I challenge you to just do one thing different today. Go up to somebody or call them and just ask them that open-ended question, anything. And my favorite would be, instead of saying, how's your week going, say, hey, what's the challenge you've been going through this week? Just open up that discussion. But I challenge everyone. And the reason I say this is there's a woman in my gym. Her name's Virginia. And she always says hello. And I'm not, I'm into my thing, and I got to come out. And I know I don't look like I go to the gym, but I put in 35, 45 minutes. And I finally said, you know what? This woman's being so nice. I'm going to speak to her. And I just took a moment and we just started talking. This woman, not only does she say hi to me every day, she really genuinely, intentionally says, hey, how's it going with real estate? Or how are your grandchildren? Genuinely. And I got to tell you, if I'm in a bad mood, that puts me in a great mood. She's done more for me than I've done more for her. And so I challenge everyone today who's listening, do one thing different, to your point, Elia.
And I'm glad, Zach, that you're okay being on the receiving end of somebody else's kindness. I think this is really important too. We're all kindness givers here on the show, and our guests usually are. But our hardest thing always is to be on the receiving end and to receive with an open heart. And I'm glad that you're doing that and you're smiling about it. That really says a lot.
My wife says I stink at that. And she finds sometimes when somebody comes up and pays me a compliment or wants to do something for me, she'll give me an elbow, says, tell them thank you. Say yes, okay. Give somebody a chance to do something for you. That's what she always tells me, make them feel good too. And I'm like, okay, all right.
Well,
I was taught by somebody last year, actually, that when somebody pays me a compliment, all I got to do is go like this. I received that. Thank you.
thank you.
Yeah.
Versus saying, well, no, just kind of downplaying it a little bit or trying to compliment back immediately and so on. She goes, no, don't do that because I receive it. Thank you. And that's it. And I've been practicing that for the last year.
I love that. I'm going to steal that from you.
Please do. Yeah. I mean, it's not mine, but yeah, she helped me to actually be in the present moment in a state of receiving without automatically thinking, what can I give back? How can I pay this back? How can I compliment back? It's like, you know what? You're giving them a gift when you receive. Somebody went out of their way to pay you a compliment, or Zach, to ask you about your grandkids or about your real estate. Just say, I received that. Thank you. It's a beautiful way to be open-hearted that way.
Well,
Thank you for that.
like I said, we could
Thank
go
you for that.
talking all day.
I know we're over time. Yeah.
we need to wrap up, but Zach, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for all the great insights and wonderful stories that you've shared with us. And I want to say to our audience 3 things. Take the time to stop and think, what have I learned from this episode today? Second thing, how is it applicable to me? Third thing, what am I going to do? What am I going to do about it? And go out and see what you can do to make a difference in somebody's life today. Oh, and I always do this. I'm ready to jump off, but before we go, Zack, how can people connect with you if they want to connect with you and find you? How can they do that?
If you're on LinkedIn, that's probably the best way to connect with me. I do a lot of friend working on LinkedIn, not networking. I love LinkedIn. So Zack Demopoulos on LinkedIn. And you're welcome to visit our website, which is invisibleemployeeadvocates.com. All one word.
Wonderful. Thank you
Thank you so much. What a pleasure to have you, to see your smiling face and your warm heart and your aura, man. You're just a man of kindness and a man of love and so heart-centered human being. I'm honored to consider to be your friend. Great.
I'm going to take a page out of your book and say thank you. I've received that. I'm not mocking you. I generally thank you for that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Both of you have been just so generous with your time and friendship. I appreciate both of you so much. And thanks for what you're doing here. I love your podcast.
Well, you're welcome. And thank you again to our audience. We want you to remember another thing during this week. With kindness,
everybody wins.
Everybody wins. You got to say it, Zack. You get to say it with us. With kindness.
Everyone wins.
That's right.
Love it, man.
All right. Thank you very much.